Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 6. And it's weird that I think that this is probably the best episode, but that's not saying much. They just have a lot of fan service, and that's about it. Like, they don't really do much with the fan service. It's just like, hey, here's this, hey, here's that. And it's like, alright. Like, did this need to exist? Like, I've seen 6 episodes of this, and other than just to have Star Wars content to consume, that seems to be the only kind of reason. Because it's really kind of strange. This and Ms. Marvel have the same kind of problem, though granted, in this, it has been better able to kind of focus more on Kenobi, whereas Ms. Marvel has a problem of focusing on Kamala. It's really kind of weird. So, they're trying to figure out how to escape the Star Destroyer as the path's trying to, like, go off, and Kenobi's pretty much just like, hey, Vader, go after me. Let me do this. Let me protect you guys. And they're like, wait a minute, we were gonna, like, all get out of this together. They're getting and working on the hyperdrive. It'll get worked out, and then we'll all escape. But he's like, I gotta give you that chance to do it. And evidently they had a dropship capable of hyperspace travel. Yeah. Granted, I know it wouldn't really have fixed all of the rest of them, but couldn't you take, like, granted, I understand the operation of taking a hyperdrive or taking parts from a hyperdrive and trying to, like, reconfigure some stuff, but I'm, like, now just thinking about, like, okay. And then, also, while this is going on, Reva somehow got onto Tatooine. Like, she fucking teleported out of fucking nowhere, and she's still good, even though she got, like, lightsabered through. Like, I guess it didn't hit any vital enough organs for her to, like, not immediately die, but she's kind of fucked up, and I'm just like, alright, now granted, there are force abilities and shit, I get that, but we don't see her utilizing them, or understanding if she even has those kind of capabilities as a force user, because you'd have to kind of hide that shit from, like, the Inquisitors and Palpatine, because Palpatine would be like, what the fuck are you doing? The fuck are you doing? Because he'd probably be like, that's pretty strong. Vader would be like, yeah, if you could fucking heal yourself from shit like that, I'd be in pretty deep shit. So, she somehow got to Tatooine super fucking fast, and this is kind of going along at the same time, and it's just, I understand that you don't have a lot of time for certain things, but you gotta work on your pacings and shit with how this is kind of going. How do I want to do this? Let's do Reva's stuff first. Evidently, she was able to connect the dots that this is one of Vader's kids. However, well, one of Anakin's kids, because she's going after more Anakin rather than Vader, even though that was kind of Vader. You kind of get it. But evidently, she is going to go and kill Luke as vengeance upon Vader, even though Vader probably, like, is like, I already thought my kid was dead. And, like, I don't fault the actress for this. This wasn't really that well thought through with her character. I understand them trying to dovetail and parallel her shit with Vader, even though Vader was not like, I'm gonna go murder this specific fucking kid. Granted, he went fucking Hambo Jambo and was like, I'm gonna take out all the Jedi younglings, because I'm a dick. No, she's like, I understand trying to put that kind of parallel and everything like that, but its execution does not work. I'm just like, why is she going after Luke? Because she was able to somewhat figure out that Bail Organa is like, hey, it almost defeats the purpose of even trying to go after Kenobi. Why don't you just be like, hey, Vader, I found one of your crazy-ass kids! I mean, if she was able to be like, Lord Vader, here's your daughter, he'd go like, the fuck? He'd go nuts and shit. Like, it almost, like, if you could piece that shit together, it almost undoes the fucking plot of the show to a degree. Oh, God. So, Owen and Brew are pretty much. Owen and Luke pretty much went and were like, yeah, I kind of broke some shit, so he kind of needs parts to kind of fix stuff. That was Luke. And then this one dude's like, hey, somebody's looking for your ass. So they go and they got Brew's like, hey, we got guns. We'll try and hold her ass off. And it's like, holy shit. Like, if they were able to do this, why the fuck were the stormtroopers able to take their asses out in episode 4? I mean, granted, they're older, but it's not like they fucking went completely and utterly insane. Like, time framing wise, it's like, alright, just do whatever the fuck you want. See, this is the problem when you're trying to fill in certain things. But Reva pops up and they're like, I'm gonna do this shit. And then they're pretty much like shooting at her and doing kind of their best. But she's still kind of wounded, kind of echoing Kylo Ren kind of shit in episode 7. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But she pretty much talks to Owen and says, hey, you love him like one of your own. And he's like, yeah, he is my own. Then she pretty much pushes him off. Bruce's like, Luke, run! And then she pretty much gets pushed over. Luke runs out in the desert. She then runs after him and pretty much gets him to a position where she's pretty much trying to kill him. But she then sees herself and decides that she can't and brings the kid back. That kind of dovetails in with like Kenobi when he gets there. So, before that happens, Kenobi's like, alright, I'm sorry, Leia. I promise that I will see you later. And it's a pretty, you can at least feel the emotion between the two of them. Because, I mean, they've been doing some weird-ass shit together. And she then gives him Lola, granted, more kind of secretly. And then he goes, flies off, and Vader's like, you know what? Go after Kenobi. The Grand Inquisitor's like, we can stop the path shit. I mean, he's just gonna be there, man. They're not even, like, in hyperspace or anything, man. And granted, he doesn't go even into that kind of tactical depth. It's like, they cannot jump to hyperspace. I mean, why, like, they're able to still kind of outrun him a little bit, but it's like, he's like, no, go for Kenobi. I understand you're kind of putting that kind of thing, and that Vader's like, fuck that shit, I'm gonna kill that motherfucker. Alright? I get that. But it's just like, hey, he's not really going anywhere, he's just gonna wait for you. You could just be like, ugh. But like, nope. Vader's like, nah, I got this shit. And that's not a plotting thing. That's Vader being a stupid little shit about this, because he has to have that rage, he has to have that anger. He's like, I'm gonna go kill Kenobi. I'm like, yep, you dumb fucker. And he goes, readies my shuttle. Granted, if he's like, ready my shuttle, they'd probably be like, that the shuttle he had probably had hyperdrive capability, because evidently Kenobi says too. So they could just be like, fuck it, let's go get them. They probably got their hyperspace up and was like, because that's pretty much the end of him until we see Leia later on. He did give Tala's holster to Leia to be like, yeah, here you are. And she's like, what? There's no blaster? He's like, Leia, you're 10. Right? You're not going to be 10 forever, but yeah. So we see them land on the planet, and then we get like a very epic and really well done fight scene between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. This is the highlight, and the only reason I'm like, this is like one of the best episodes, because this at least dovetails enough to being good action that showcases character and character development and all that. Alright? So overall, I'd be like, yes, here. And then we also kind of get that with Reva as well afterwards, not to the most kind of powerful extent. So we at first see them kind of like going, Vader's like, yeah, what you got? And he's like, well, I'll do what I must, echoing, that's the first pretty much echo that we get of Revenge of the Sith, and then we get like a hello there towards the end as well. And then we see them kind of fighting, and Obi-Wan's pretty much back into like power form. It's really kind of weird because not enough time has been shown on him with this. I don't need a complete and utter detailed like tax return breakdown of how he got to this point, okay? I don't need that in depth, but we haven't really seen. It's almost been like, hey, the plot demands him do this because this is episode whatever out of 6, so we have to do that to get that done. You know what I mean? So he's pretty much at your pretty much his peak stuff, even though we haven't seen him throughout much. Like, we see little bits and pieces of him trying to use the Force to certain degrees of success, but we don't see him going, like, really in-depth for any kind of meditative kind of thing to get to this kind of point. Granted, more because the plot demands it, because we don't have enough time, because we're doing other kind of shit with other characters. So first, Vader pretty much like gets him down, and he's like, you've got your strength, but you also have your weaknesses, and then pretty much like utilizes the Force in like overwhelming strength manner to put him in a hole, and then drop all of these things on him, all of these rocks and everything to pretty much bury him. And it's like, yeah, screw you, Master, and then walks off, and then we see that Obi-Wan. All right, I'm gonna say this in how it is. It's like the power of friendship kind of moment. But that's kind of a big deal here. Because the whole Jedi philosophy has been, up until this point that we've seen, is the severing of like attachments and everything. However, in this point we see that his attachments grant him strength and get him back out of this kind of situation. It's a very kind of cool bit because Vader's strong attachments, Anakin's strong attachment to Padme is what made him fall to the dark side. Here, it helped bring Obi-Wan back and into a veritable strength mine for him. Again, why I'm kind of terming it the power of friendship kind of thing. But I do like that kind of dichotomy of, okay, Vader, because of his jealousy and his complete attachment to people, would do anything and would do horrible things and use his rage and everything against other people and all of the bad things that have gone on in his life to do horrible things, and that's his version of strength. Whereas Kenobi is like, okay, he's tried to be quiet, use the Force in the way of the Jedi and not have those attachments, but his attachment to Anakin deeply affected him because of the fight that it went through, to the point that he cut himself off from the Force pretty much. And then this attachment to all these people helped bring him to such a profound connection to the Force that he's able to come out and beat the ever-loving fuck out of Vader. Granted, if we didn't have any other kind of episodes or whatnot, he probably would have been able to kill his ass. However, that also wouldn't fit because Anakin was like, you can't defeat someone with mercy, and Obi-Wan pretty much does the same kind of mercy bit here. And it's really kind of weird because you would think that he would kind of bring that up with Luke later on. But we see him utilizing the Force in various different ways. We'd seen him use the kind of like one lightsaber stance style. We see him just going through and actually really kind of back in form, even though he hasn't been doing it in years, and just like hitting Vader in like weak spots and everything and throwing rocks and shit at him, and eventually gets to a point where he pretty much chops off a portion of his mask, similar to Ahsoka in the TV shows and whatnot. Granted, I haven't seen those, but it's cool to kind of echo that. And then he's like trying to get into Anakin's humanity. He's like, no, this isn't your fault, Obi-Wan. I killed Anakin Skywalker. And he's like, then Obi-Wan, of course, really gets the gravity of that and says that my friend is truly dead. And that there's nothing else for him to do. He's like, goodbye, Darth. Pretty much giving us to the whole episode 4 bit of why he's like, oh, you're only a master of evil, Darth. He's pretty much lost any kind of hope. But it was cool, and that it was Hayden Christensen doing that kind of bit as well, and having his kind of voice come through as well. But it was an interesting kind of choice for him to be like, nah, Anakin's dead. And he keeps trying to push that until, of course, Luke is able to bring him back. And granted, he's able to bring him back to the light, even though that's just kind of the beginning of his redemption. I mean, granted, he did throw the old prune down a fucking hole because of other various things. The prune fucking survived, but at least he made the attempt to atone for certain kind of things, even though that would have been like the first step in atoning, because the prequels just made him kind of worse. Understand, now granted, him being a Jedi hunter, that's pretty bad. Him being a fascistic motherfucking asshole for like authoritarian empire shit, yeah, that's bad. Then you add in the whole bit of like killing children and shit, and then you're just like, okay, yeah, yeah, that's a harder kind of, it was a kind of harder sell before, and then you're just like, there would have been needed to be more stuff with that. But so he's like, Anakin's dead, Obi-Wan is sensing and something's going on. He pretty much gets there, he's like, Owen's like, hey, he's out in the desert, we gotta find him. And then of course Reva pops up like, hey, he's alright. And everyone's like, alright, cool. And he pretty much talks to her, and she's like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. And he's like, you won. You honor the people that died during all that by not killing him and by not becoming Vader. You didn't fail in killing Vader and letting vengeance and continuing that kind of cycle. Now, granted, Obi-Wan doesn't go into that, but there does become a certain kind of bit of like, all right, do you want justice or do you want vengeance? Vengeance usually leads to implementing violence because violence was done upon you and that cycle continuing. Like, this person either killed me or hurt me or killed those that I loved, so I'm going to do the same to them. And then, of course, you do that, and there's somebody else probably left alive or somebody that was deeply affected by that, and they come and do the same to you, and vice versa until it gets to a point where nobody's around anymore. Whereas this, I mean, was like, listen, you have taken the first step in moving past that trauma and trying to be better and trying to become a better person. And I like that. Granted, I like the place that this is ending. The execution of it has been completely and utterly all over the place and just completely like, alright, pacing wise and everything. I do like where they end with her and she's like, alright, thank you. And like, she gets it and she tosses away the Inquisitor's lightsaber. Now, will she become like back to the light? Will she forsake the Force? We don't know. So I would be interested to see what they would kind of do with her character, with God, any other different kind of writers that where she is. It's really kind of weird because she was more of a focus than like Kenobi, and of course Leia was more of a focus as well. But if you put a proper focus on her, I think there would be a lot of interesting storytelling to be done with her. Even though a lot of completely and utterly batshit stuff went on with her getting stabbed through twice and being pretty okay. Granted, Vader should be going after her ass, but the fuck do I know anymore? So that gets closed out. He goes back to visit Leia. She, of course, has her gloves and everything. She's got her holster and all that. She's got a more kind of traditional kind of outfit, and then they're going to kind of meet. And Obi-Wan, of course, brings back Lola, and Leia's wondering if they'll meet again. She's like, well, maybe. We'll see. And it's kind of interesting to see Bale's reaction to seeing her kind of outfit and everything. And I'm like, hey, different kind of leaders and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. So they kind of get their own little goodbye thing. He flies back off to Tatooine, pretty much cleaned out his kind of hermit hole. And I don't know what else he's going to be kind of doing, but he goes, sees Owen. He's like, yeah, I think you're right, Owen. Just let him be a boy. And just have his childhood. And then he's getting ready to leave, and then Owen's like, hey, you want to meet him? And then of course he goes to hello there, kind of gives him the toy plane pretty much, and then goes off to wander the desert. I'm like, alright. And then he finally sees Qui-Gon, so it was a nice kind of thing to see Liam Neeson like that. He's like, where have you been? He's like, I've always been here, you just weren't ready to see yet, so let's continue on. And it was kind of cool to kind of see that, because I do like the idea of the Force Ghost in that I know that you can know literally that your mentors are there, but that's the whole kind of bit. A mentor is always there for you because their teachings live on in you. So even if they're not there physically, they're there in how you think and what you've done and what you've accomplished in their tutelage. So I do like that kind of aspect of what I get from it when you see those Force Ghosts trying to impart wisdom and everything. Yes, it's like a connection from beyond the grave, but it's also what you could do just sitting down. Like, you have someone that's really taught you something and you're like, okay, I'm trying to think through what's kind of going on here. What's the best kind of course of action? And then you could like conjure up that mentor that you've got and figure out. And if you've got that good connection with them and then learn those kind of things from them, you can chart a kind of new course. And then of course it's best for you to find those other people and mentor them as well and just continue to help that kind of process get better. So those are the kind of cool things that I got out of it. However, it's, again, the execution to get to these places is just all over the place. The plot is just like, alright, whatever. And God, overall, I'm just like, okay, there might be some good stuff that I've been able to get out of this, but overall, I've already got these things from other Star Wars, other Star Wars movies, TV shows, books, and everything. And it's just like, when I'm like, all right, what does this accomplish? Not much. Is it just more Star Wars? Yes. And that's pretty much it. And I'm like, all right. So if they do a second season, I really wouldn't review it because it would. I don't see what else that they'd really do with it. You know what I mean? If anything, I might watch it for enjoyment or whatnot. But overall, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're probably gonna like it. If you're not into Star Wars, or you're trying to watch all the kind of stuff to like get various different kind of aspects, this is just only if you want to see like young Leia and maybe see kind of Obi-Wan deal with certain kinds of his stuff and then get some cool him versus Vader kind of fights. That's about it. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.